This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Jody Patfield of KIS Technologies Inc. Jody, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. Excited to be here, happy to be here, and looking forward to this. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, what the audience doesn't see is the pre-show. And the pre-show is a huge determining factor for me after doing so many, how this show is going to go. And when we can have the conversation like you and I just had for the last 10 minutes pre-show, that gets me pretty pumped up. As you can imagine, once you do something for so long, monotony can kick in. You try to find ways to make it creative. And certainly for us on the show, it's the people we bring on, the questions we ask, and the environment we provide them, hopefully to provide a stimulating conversation. I think this will be one. But let's start off with your business right off the top. What is KIS Technologies Inc?
Cool. And just before you said a word there that I said in our pre-interview, I looked at the questions, but I wasn't going to formulate answers. There was one answer that needed to be formulated, and we'll come to that or prepared. People. You talked about people, and like I said, in that little 10-minute chat we had there, I've got goosebumps right now from our discussion. Lots of people, whoever's watching this, that know me, and I'm going to say that I don't have an ego. I do have an ego. I probably struggle sometimes to keep it in check, but to stand up and talk about me isn't something I'm comfortable on. To talk about my team, my people, things I've done that maybe I think will help other people, I'm pretty comfortable with, but to sit and yap about me is not a strength. So you'll maybe notice me diverting away. But what is KIS Technologies? So KIS was Kempenfeld Imaging Systems, which was born out of ultimately 26 years ago my lack of creativity and marketing. As we're talking here, Jeff, there was a connection to a company that I worked with, a local connection at the time, and so that name sort of came. But we've changed it recently to KIS Technologies to reflect where we are today. So there's fancy ways to say it. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to stick with my simple terms. I'm a copier salesman. I've been a copier salesman for 30 years, and maybe some of the younger crowd watching this are going to go, what's a copier? That's not a term that's maybe used as much anymore. So office technology, office equipment, copiers, printers, phone systems, all of that. Our business has evolved in certainly the last 7 to 10 years with our integration into the IT world. And so we've been doing an awful lot of network services, IT infrastructure, security. There's a million different classifications and terms in there, but we'll just wrap it up simply and just say IT services. And so we felt that our name change was necessary to just be a little more representative of what we are. So KIS Technologies Inc, in a simple word, is anything to do with office technology.
Okay, so that makes it easy. Whether we know what a copier is or not, everybody knows what IT is. But essentially, You are B2B for whoever has an office out there, has a team out there. The how do I want to put this? You make that environment easier for them, essentially, more efficient, more organized. Yeah, right.
And it's funny you say that, because everybody, myself included, you forget your password, or you got to reset your passwords. And we have this incredible technology today. And I'm not sure that it always does make our lives faster and easier and more efficient. It can be extremely challenging. And one of the areas in the IT world that I really, it's almost a love-hate. The IT industry uses acronyms and buzzwords, and I don't, that's not my way of doing things, but you got to play along. So, but the bad guys, right? That's what they talk about, the bad actors, the guys that are at home or wherever, trying to hack your network and phishing and all of the garbage emails and spams and Facebook things and all that stuff that we get. There's a race. There's a race between the bad guys and the good guys. And the bad guys are honestly generally a step ahead, and then the good guys catch up and the bad guys go. So it's frustrating in one way that I can never go to a client and say, here is Fort Knox, your network secure, everything's perfect, because that doesn't exist. And I, being a bit of a joker, I'll say to a client, you want a guarantee? I can give you a guarantee. You want your network to be safe? Don't go on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not possible in this day. So Really, the goal is to make things as secure as possible, prepare for something bad to happen, because is the likelihood of it happening huge? No, but can it happen? Obviously, and yes. So we try to prepare uh, a security fabric. And again, there's a buzzword I don't like using, but I think of an old castle with a moat around it, and then a chain link wall, and then a tiger running around in there. You try to have as many layers of protection, but there's always breaches. There's always, the tiger's not in the back corner, or the fence falls down, whatever, being silly. But that part of things, that ongoing challenge is exciting. It's very challenging for me to, as I said, I'm an old copier guy. So here I am at 50, almost 55 years old, learning technology that's for a younger man than me. But I love that. I love that challenge. And to go into a business and sit with them, I can talk about the concept. I can talk about kind of what we're going to do. You're going to ask me, how does it work? How does it do it? And that ain't me. So that's where I'm going to go to my team. And again, there's those people. I have some fantastic people that have been with me for a really long time. And that's a whole topic right there on how fortunate I am. But so to the passion I have for talking about that and what we can try to do to help you with your business, that is as strong as ever. The challenge of the product and the technology and learning all of that is a challenge. As I said, it keeps me going, and it forces me into areas that I never thought I'd want to be or would be, but I'm very much enjoying being there. So I don't know if that's confusing how I've said all that or not, but it is what it is.
No, I think it nails it right. And I was thinking the whole time, two things, especially with that last comment you made about challenging you, but two things. It's like, there are going to be businesses listening to this that say, maybe they're doing $100,000 in revenue a year. I don't need IT services because they're in their infancy stages. But there are going to be businesses. I mean, certainly we have clients that are doing 10 or more $1 million a year. They have so much to lose. So security, now protecting what they have, is such a high priority. And I like how you said there is no guarantee in this. There's few guarantees in life. Like if we're talking about empirical facts, there's a handful of them. And certainly one of the goals in my life is to, to scrape and claw my way to truth. But I find it very difficult to do, to find real truth and to have real certainty and real guarantees. There's this quote out there that I'm going to butcher it, but I think it says, as your island of knowledge grows, so too does the shore of ignorance. It's like the more you find out, the more you realize it's like we don't live in this black and white society. We live smack dab in that gray area. And I think that's why we desire certainty so much. So to know that you're a business out there that first off says, hey, we got some really good stuff, but guarantees they just aren't a thing. That tells me right away that there's honesty there, because when people make me guarantees on something I believe doesn't have a guarantee in the marketing world, we hear this all the time. You're already losing me because it doesn't sound true. And to know that you enjoy the challenge, age isn't a restriction for you. You have a team, you lean on them to keep finding the next solution, keep pushing the ball forward. That's the person I want on my team. The person that says, hey, there's a lot of shit out there. We got a lot of good stuff to stop a lot of it, but we're constantly moving forward to find out how to stop the next and the next and the next. Because ultimately, I think we're in a constant state of flux. Things are constantly changing with AI. What's that going to do to IT services, to marketing, to everything that we have out there? I think it's going to change the world in a big way. I want to know that the players on my team are just striving to be better in some way, rather than the person that's status quo, it's perfect now, no need to change it, traditionalist type of thing. I want the guy that's moving the ball forward constantly and then letting me know, here's what I need to do, Jeff, to participate in this. I'm going to take care of the rest type of thing. That's certainly the vibe that I'm getting. But I also feel quite privileged in my world to constantly be challenged. I mean, really, I think this isn't about me, but it's about the point that you were saying about being challenged. I think if you distill marketing down to its essence, it is just communication between humans. So every sign, every billboard, everything that you can interpret out there is some form of communication. Then that means everywhere I walk through, all the books behind me, this conversation now, everything that's communicating me is teaching me something, which makes it vastly challenging because it's literally everywhere, but also excites. And I think the people who embrace challenge, ultimately, I think they're the ones that are going to win. If winning's even a thing, but they're certainly the ones that I want on my team. So I like that you started with that right up in front. And there's going to be a lot of people listening to this that are 40, 50, 60, even older. We have some clients that are in their late 60s. They've had a business for 35 years, know nothing about social media. And it's been working me for this amount of time. Why change? I get it. But it's pretty refreshing to see somebody come on here and say, listen, I'm 50 something. It was copiers back then. It's no longer that to the same degree, but we're learning and I'm relying on new minds. I do this, they do that. That delegation, I think, is really important for business owners to hear because I think it's integral to scaling. The example that I gave you in the pre-show about the electrician being a great electrician, I think eventually the evolution of that business, they need to get off the tools and start delegating to other minds that are better at those things than they are. So it seems like you have all of that going for you. And I'm curious, remind me, how long has the business been around for?
So a couple of months from now, we'll hit 26 years, which, again, I don't take inventory of myself and that very often, but we had a celebration last year, our 25th. And we talked a little bit, and I hope we get into this, but I did a personal journey last year. I did a pretty substantial hike. And the day, May 1st, I was in the middle of my hike, and that was our 25th anniversary of the company. And it was May 6th or 7th, and I was in the Beaver Valley up at Old Baldy Provincial Park on this absolutely stunning, on the Niagara Escarpment. And it was just a gorgeous day. And again, I'm 3 weeks deep into this pretty emotional, spiritual journey. And I sat down on a bench, and I'm overlooking, there was the whole escarpment. There's vultures and birds, just in the wildlife's incredible. But I'm sitting up here looking, I don't know how high I was, 400 or 500 feet, just on a little wooden bench overlooking the edge, which I'm not comfortable with at all. Looking at these birds. It was a beautiful day. And I'm like, holy shit, I forgot. There was a Facebook. We talk about social media. I don't have a clue how to do social media. There was a Facebook process I used all along, and it wasn't, we'll go there, but I talked about stuff every day. I posted videos, I shared pictures. I brought people with me on the trail. I walked 900 kilometers with
Holy smokes.
hundreds and hundreds of people, not on my shoulders, at my back, pushing me, sometimes pulling me, with another story. But I sat there and I'm like, I didn't make a post for my company. And my daughter, who has literally grown up in the business and still works in the business, has another full-time job. And I hope her boss isn't watching this, because I know I steal some of his time chatting with her during the day. But I called her. It's ironic. I had cell coverage from more or less Niagara Falls to Tobermory in the middle of the forest. And my cell phone doesn't work out here in front of my office in Barrie, but that's another situation. And I've lost it. I told you I'd go off track here. I was so captivated by this journey that I was on, in the beauty, and I forgot to post happy anniversary. And so anyways, I made a video post, and to just sit there and take in all the shit you've done over there. I've done some dumb stuff. I've made some mistakes. I think back in the beginning, people said, you got no effing chance of making this, and you're going to fail, and you're this and you're that. And I had 2 words for them. Sure as hell haven't done everything right, but we're standing here 26 years later, rolling, moving forward, evolving. And those are moments that I sit there. Those are the few times when I go like, shit, man, you've done something. You need to be proud of this. And I'll have a moment or two and appreciate that, and then deflect it to people. I've got staff that have been with me for 20 plus years. And I, much like I said to my ex-wife, like, what the hell are you doing still hanging around with me here? Because Sherry works in the business, and when she watches this, she'll probably be laughing and swearing at me at the same moment. But we have a really cool environment here, and I'm so fortunate, the people that are here. So it all plays in, and we talk about the company, and that those milestones, I don't recognize them maybe as much as I should, but that was an impactful moment. anybody watching this knows I'm an emotional fool, and sitting here right now replaying that and talking about that, there's emotions right on the surface for me there, and that won't surprise anybody that knows me. So I'm not sure if I even answered your question there, Jeff. I just went down. We said we'd go down rabbit holes.
It's all good stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you're just describing a chapter of a human's experience. So we're all going to relate to it. What I'm curious about is the questions that I ask the people that are further in the journey than me. I think a lot of people are curious about how did you do this? What got you there? How do you feel about this, et cetera? So I want to know, depending on the stats that you look at, but they're pretty accurate. They've been around for quite some time, and they continually update them, and they always seem to be the same. Like 8 or 9 out of 10 businesses do not make it to 5 years. And it's something around a single digit percentage point, like 6 or 7% of businesses that make it to 10 years make it there profitably. So we can glean from that 90+% of businesses will fail. That's a tragic number. Mm-hmm. That means you're a part of a very small group to make it to 26 years. Would you consider that a success?
Absolutely. It's not a finished success. It's successful. I look at my numbers from day one, right? I'm not a numbers guy. I'm this. I'm an emotional guy. I'm a salesman. I'm a relationship person. I think I have integrity and value. So I've always said, and maybe this is foolish, I can look at the numbers and I can sit and worry about them, or I can put my head down and just go do everything that I can possibly do to hopefully get us across the finish line. And the finish line is sometimes a week, it's a month, it's a quarter, it's a year. There's different targets for it. So I'm aware of my numbers. I look at them, but I guess they do drive me, because if the number's not where it needs to be, that really drives you, right? And equally, as you get older, if your number's good, it can be easy to take your foot off the pedal a little bit. And sure, absolutely, we've done that. And you take your foot off the pedal, and then 4 months later, you're going, what the hell happened? So that's an ongoing balance, and that is something that with where we are now, and with a recent acquisition, very recent acquisition that we've just done with an IT company here in town that we've added to our company, mm-hmm, that just fuels you more, right? So now I've got a whole lot of work to do, and it's reinvigorated me. I get out of COVID certainly helped this, but I like dressing up. That's my uniform, putting on a suit, putting on nice pair of shoes, and not to, here's my ego again, right? But to look good and feel good helps me to go out and perform well. And COVID certainly got me in the, I'll just wear jeans and a t-shirt into the office. And that doesn't serve me. I come in here and let's be honest, I don't have a purpose to come to my office. I have a fantastic team. I get here and I get my nose involved in things where it doesn't need to be and screw stuff up. They'd all be happier if I didn't come here, other than to, here's a new deal kind of thing. So this, and I go through this all the time. I'm like, put your suit on, dummy. Like that is your Superman cape. Put your suit on, dress up, go do what you do. Putting on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and sitting in my office and I don't know what I'm doing it's dumb. So I'm 56. I'm doing the same shit sometimes that I did when I was 22. You'd think I'd learn. But anyways, here I am in a suit, and I didn't put a suit on today because we're doing this. I put a suit on again because that's what I need to do right now. I need to have, I feel so much better. I feel so much better when I'm in my suit. And there's business owners that are watching this. Absolutely. There's all kinds of studies that'll tell you that. Dress for success, right? Mm-hmm. It's not even that. Just that is what I am. I'm a jeans and t-shirt guy at 6 o'clock, and I'm a suit guy from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I'm suit guy right now.
If I think feeling good, the foundation of my life, or my whole life, rests on a foundation of health. My background prior to marketing is gyms, fitness, personal trainer. I owned a couple of them. So it's, 20 plus years in there. So feeling good, if, like we have a pretty large team. So we do a lot of educational calls. We do some speaking gigs for other businesses, and we're talking a lot basically. And then on here, and when people say, how did you reach this stage? If they're not at our stage, of course, there's many, many people that are further down the line than us. But I say it is feeling good. It is feeling, I can't study. I can't talk to Jody. I can't look at the numbers and do things that are uncomfortable for me if I'm constantly feeling uncomfortable, if I have headaches or I just don't feel good in the clothing. So I think it's such an easy and simple thing, but if putting on a suit makes you feel good, like the gym is the thing for me. I need to eat right, sleep right, and move. Then I can feel good. I love having the beard. There's just certain thing that you want to wear to represent yourself out there so that you can feel your best self. And it does seem like a small little strategy for business success. I think people are looking more for like, how did you do this? How did you build your profit margin? What are your tactics and philosophies behind this? And often that person just feels really good to be them and they're comfortable doing the uncomfortable stuff. But I do want to ask you, first off, how big is the team?
There's 12 of us when I include myself, and I have to do that math all the time. And that was something I was thinking about driving in today. And I asked myself, why do you never know that number like that? And I don't have an answer to that. I think that's part of my, well, whatever. We got a crew, we do our stuff and whatever. But yeah, so there's 12 of us, and everybody. Owning a business is difficult as hell, and having employees, it's not fantastic always. And that's not news to anybody watching this. That's not new to my staff if they're watching it. Bosses, owners are a pain in the ass, and employees can be challenging at times. I have fantastic people that work here, that commit here. And do we have rough moments? Absolutely. Do we have times where I'm sure people are like, dude, blank you, I've had enough of your shit. Yeah, we've talked. If it's near month end and we're struggling and not having a good month, I'm certainly not an asshole, but I'm probably not as warm and fuzzy as I can be. So yeah, there's moments that aren't as good as others, but there's always stuff you got to deal with. That's part of having a business. It's part of having a family. Like, you get mad at your wife or your husband or your kids and whatever. It's a moment. It's a situation. You deal with it, whatever it is, and you move on. You love your people. And that's no different here. So I forget the question you asked me there. I started going again.
It was how many people did you have?
How many people? 12 people. So 12 people, again, that have been a part of the team for an awfully long time, that I'll never stop praising the team that I have, the people that we have, and how well we all fit together. I'll never stop thanking them and appreciating them.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic takeaway. Something that I'm curious about. I love the numbers. I think it is a good indicator of the success of a business. I mean, if a business is doing 10 or 20 or 30 or $40 million a year, the higher up you go the ladder, the more rare it gets. So it seems logical to be like, I want to pick that person's brain. How do they get there? As the vast majority of us would be happy to make it to 7 figures, right? I think at that 7-figure mark, if you hit your first $1 million in revenue, most people should be making, 6 figures themselves as the owner. You get to 8 figures, you should probably be making closer to that $1 million or something like that. And I think most people, when they look at financial freedom, for most of us, not all of us, there are rare groups, but I think it comes to that $200,000 to $300,000 mark a year. I think most of us would say, if I can make 30 grand a month, all my necessities would be taken care of. I'd have stuff away. I've had a portfolio. We'd be able to travel. And if you're making the last time I looked, 163K, you are in the top 5% of all of Canada, maybe even the top 1, which in this day and age doesn't seem like a whole lot of money, especially if you have a family, maybe if you're a bachelor. Mm-hmm. But 26 years, I don't know what you guys do for numbers, but 12 employees isn't a super small business. That's a goal I think a lot of people want to get to. What would you say are a few key things that led you to that point? Because it is a rare state, just being at 26 years.
I'm going to take people out of the equation for a second, but they'll come right back in quickly. Ultimately, number one, and not number one is the most important, but going back to the beginning, stubbornness.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of us entrepreneurs are.
I worked for a manufacturer. I loved what I was able to do with my clients. I hated the way the manufacturer treated the clients, treated the sales team, treated everybody. And I said, I hope I can say this. I said, fuck this. I can do a better job on my own. So being the stubborn idiot that I am, 3 months before I got married, I quit an extremely well-paying job and started my own business. I didn't do it completely blind. I led up to it, but I just said, you know what, this is crap. The manufacturer doesn't care of how hard I'm working and all what I'm doing. I can do a better job with it. And didn't know how, didn't know who, just knew it would be me and I'd figure it out. And I did. And well, I can't say I figured it out. I'm still trying to figure it out, but that really wasn't a hell of a lot more than that. I hated the way, and actually, sorry, I got my facts wrong. Not 3 months before I got married, 3 months after my daughter was born, pardon me. I've got a couple different thoughts in my head, is when I quit and left this. And a big part of that at the time was having this beautiful brand new baby daughter, and the stress and anger that the process of my work, I worked from home up here in Barrie at the time, put me through. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I should be so happy. And 2 months or 2 weeks out of the month, I'm ready to just rip the world apart. And I'm like, this is nuts. I can't do this shit. So yeah, I left in a very, very, very well-paying job and said, screw it, I'm going to figure it out on my own. To answer your question, it does come back to people. You said something earlier when you talked about the shoreline of knowledge.
Yeah. So as your island of knowledge increases, so too does the shoreline of ignorance. Yeah.
So ego and attitude plays in when you're younger and until you grow. So it took me a while to understand it's not what I know that's important, it's what I don't know. And learning, these are areas that, dude, you don't know how to do this. I'm not a money guy. I can know how to figure out sales related to money, but to run the financial part of the business, that wasn't me. So Sherry, my wife at the time, that's the role she took on. If I could go back and change one thing in our early days, I would have sold my soul to hire somebody with knowledge of creating a structure so that it would have been a lot easier for years 2, 3, 4, 5 going through. My stubbornness, screw it, we'll figure it out as we go. That is advice I would say no. Spend more money than you can afford to hire the right person to help you build your structure in the office, because it's like building a house. You know, if the foundation of your house is poorly made, that house ain't standing up very long.
I use that analogy all the time.
Yeah. So there's a lot of dumb shit I did or wrong stuff. The only one that I really wish I could go back and change, and it resolved itself over time, but is early on, I would have found that person I don't know how to build this house. Help me build this house. That's it. And then all those simple cliches apply. Work your ass off, sleep at the office, all of that stuff. But you said something about money, and I agree and I disagree. And maybe this is me. I don't like to use the word maturing, but making money is important. It's critical. And does money solve problems? No. Does money allow you to do some stuff, to travel, to have a nice suit, to do things, maybe buy a nicer house, a little more room, a little more park and stuff for your kids to play? All of those absolutely are there. But you start to, your appreciation of things changes. And was the focus ever, I want to make X? No, I know what I can make. I know I have an ability to make money. So that takes care of itself. What it does change, though, is my focus isn't how much is Jody going to make at the end of the month. My focus still is I'm responsible for my team's mortgages to be paid, for food to be on their table. And that's a whole different motivational factor. Every business owner will tell you they've had months where they pay everybody else. And I think of Fonzie on Happy Days at Christmas time eating ravioli out of his tin can, but that's real. That happens. That's the reality of it. So I guess what you want changes and whatever, but working hard, working smart, having the right people, it's always going to come back to the right people. You know, we've hired people over the years that was an improvement for us. And then the company evolved a little bit, and maybe that fit didn't line up the same way. So you move on and you move on, and you evolve and you grow. And I've done that. Some would question how much or not enough, but you do. You learn, and that knowing what I don't know, and my God, does knowing what I don't know, that has gone like this in the last couple of years. I don't know if we talked about AI and Copilot and Chat GPT. And I was at a webinar or a training session last week from Microsoft. And if you told me 10 years ago that I would be sitting at a Microsoft function and enjoying it, I would have said you're crazy. The presenter was brilliant, and I was at the peak of my understanding level. I had Matt, who is with us, who's my director of IT. So he was, right in his comfort zone. But the stuff they talked about was incredible. And just for the record, and this guy, there's a category of developers at Microsoft, and white hats is the term. I'd never heard that before. These are really, really, really smart, important people that are the leaders of the individual teams within the Microsoft Corporation. And he drew a graph on the paper, and he really indicated we are at the very, very peak of AI, and it's
or the beginning,
the very, 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 very beginning. That graph, that bell graph, went up hard quickly. We haven't even. It's amazing and scary. Yeah. I came home from the course, and of course, first thing I do is download Copilot. I did it properly through my IT department. For those of you listening, owner didn't go and do it. I've done that before, and that bit me in the ass. Anyways, we talked a little bit, Jeff, in our pre-chat about this band that we have here. So I said, let's try it. And this is funny. Here's a tech tip from Jody. In the training session, the guy said they have done statistics, and if you talk politely to your AI, it performs better. That sounds
thank God, because I talk to it exactly that way. And I keep questioning myself, why do I keep saying please and thank you and all this stuff? It's because you're human.
You're human. And he absolutely spent 15, 20 minutes on that topic. Please, wow. Thank you. It performs better. Anyways,
I had no idea.
Yeah, that was wild. So and you're right. I chat. I've asked my AI or my Copilot, how are you? And then I'm like, what are you doing? But yes, and it responds. It's scary. It's all the movies we've seen, all the fear factors. But I asked it, create a logo for me for a band of 50-year-old guys with lots of guitars, and the name is Warehouse. And in 5 minutes, I had this really cool logo that I've now posted. It's our band logo in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy. I don't have graphic design skills. I'm not that at all. It was unbelievable how quick it did. So yeah, that AI is going to change everything.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's just actually interesting isn't the right word. It's
everything.
World altering, man, life altering. Unbelievable. Let's pull off of business a little bit.
Good.
And talk about, although you've been intermingling your life and business, and I think that's a lot of entrepreneurs. Our lives are intermingled with our business. They're often an extension of who we are. But let's start off with some fun stuff, some playful stuff. Give me 5 things that really light you up, Jody. I imagine your work, your family, your music. What do we got outside of that?
Those are biggies. Travel, music, we talked about, guitar, trying to learn. And I've learned a lot. I've worked hard at it. Do you
enjoy learning, or do you feel like you need to?
There's nothing enjoyable about learning how to play guitar. It is so frustrating, but of course it is. We have a lot of people have been through my office, and we have a stage, and so our band is practicing.
You have a stage in your office?
We have a stage in our office. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's there's a story behind that when I bought the building, but yeah, we have just down to my right here, we have a stage, we have lights, we have, I don't even know what half of the equipment is. There's drum set, all the guitars, everything, microphones, is a mixing board. One of my technicians Graham, that's been with us for a long time, has been in bands his whole life. So he's been a catalyst there's been a few bands that play around town that have kind of got their start here, which is something I just is a neat little, I love that I sort of helped put that together. And I've had people on our stage that are really, really talented. And to be very honest, the beginning of it was the only way I'm ever going to get on stage with those people is I'm going to bring my ball to the game and say, if you want to use my ball, you got to let me play. And that's what we've done here. But when you get up and play, and I'm not in a point that I should be giving anybody guitar talk, but when you just get up and play, you play better. You don't think about it. It's like everything in life, right? If you think about it, you're going to be paralyzed. If you just do it, and that's not quite the advice because that could do some bad stuff. When I just get up and play and you're in the band and we're in the moment and we're singing a song and you're like, damn, that sounds good. And it energizes you. It's like crazy. Yeah, there's so much that comes out of that. So to go back to your question, family, music, work, hiking, we're going to go into hiking. I want to talk about that, but being outdoors, right? Just, there's so much to see, to do, I go in the forest, I talk to trees, I listen to the trees, and I'm sorry, I'm not crazy. They communicate, and I walk the dog out there. You solve problems out there. You got work things, you got scenarios. Things are very, very clear out there. Everybody, you have your gym. You get on a treadmill, and right beside me, I have a gym here as well. A few cobwebs on some of the equipment, but I used to run. I've got bad knees, and I still try to run. When you're out running, it's just you, and it's that mental battle. So. Golf, it's just living, and that's something that's evolved in me or changed in me in the last number of years. You said awareness, and you can't say that being aware is a passion, but awareness is something that, well, here's the way I describe it. It selected me to be on the team 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't think you can say, I want to be on your team. Awareness and energy is there, right? And maybe not everybody gets an opportunity to be a part of that. And when that happens, I guess you can do a couple of things with it. For me, as part of my change in evolving as a human and being a better person and learning from things that you've done wrong and being accountable, that's been a big part of it, right? And to understand, it's so easy, to look at all the negative. We live in a pretty messed up scenario right now. There's a lot of goofy, awful stuff going on. We talked about social media and all of that, but to simplify things is really where I'm going with that, and to just embrace what matters. Family, friends, sitting on a patio, having a beer with people that you love and care about. And, did I make $100,000 or are we having a glass of wine? Like, to find that balance. And certainly as a business owner, I have said to my team, I'm going to be here less. And they were quite happy with that. But I am able to work remotely, although that is I'm not cut out that way. I need this. I'm face to face. Even if you gave me a choice, Jeff, I'd rather be sitting in a studio with you, face to face. This is obviously a valuable tool, but finding that balance of your business, maintaining the business, maintaining your life, maintaining your friendships and relationships, and doing stuff for yourself. All of those fit in there. So I'm up for anything, right? I love to go to the cottage. I love to try to do things that I don't know how to do. And there's a lot of those, but it's hard to define what gets you going or whatever. Just people, energy, fun things, scary things, different things, adventures, exploring, learning, all that. So I'm kind of just giving you a grab bag of answers there, but it still boils down to the first one you said. The first thing out of your mouth is family. That's it.
Yeah. Before we get on to the next one, give me something scary you've done recently. You've mentioned a number of times being challenged, learning, doing things I'm uncomfortable with. I think that's a very important topic. I think that's a very good message to spread to people, because I think ultimately, if you're a big believer in science, science says our bodies are wired for energy conservation. And that's why ease and comfort feel as good as they do. And that's why discomfort and hard things feel as painful as they do, trying to move us away from those things. But we know that growth is on the other side of challenge. and decline is often on the other side of comfort. So I think it's a great message. I have all my rules for life tattooed on my arm, and number 4 is to do hard things. Number 5
Love
is
it.
fear is your green light. Move into fear rather than away from it. See what you find. So give me something scary that you've done recently, Jody.
I guess I would say buying a business, or this business that we've just purchased 2 weeks ago. But it's not scary. It was planned. It was calculated. There's a risk. It's scary. Standing up on my stage singing. I have a shitty singing voice. However, I've worked really hard to find the tiny little range where I'm okay to sing in. And some members of my band and one guy, Craig in particular, I'll go, you're never going to give me a bullshit answer. Should I be singing or not? Like, the background stuff is one thing, but there's a couple of songs that I want to sing. And I'm like, I'm not going to be offended. Tell me straight up. So last night, our lead singer had to leave early. So there's a few songs I sang. And much like playing the guitar, when you get in your head, I started to sing. And the first thing I did was I heard myself and I missed a note. And then you get into your own head and you're like, oh shit, don't like, and you kind of squeeze in and you're like, don't sing. And you can't not do something, right? You can't think about not doing something. So I'm trying to sing the song. I'm trying to play guitar, which is not easy, to do both is not at the same time. My guitar playing definitely slows down. And I've spent a lot of time talking about guitar, and I shouldn't be, because I'm not in that category. But so I don't know, that'd be a little scary, I guess.
That'd be terrifying for me. Me and karaoke and singing is one of that. Dancing, although I've tried to embrace that over the last few years, that would be my scary thing. But I still haven't embraced the getting up in front of a microphone. Although I sing in the shower and in the car all the time.
And you sound fantastic, right?
I don't know about that. God, people, I annoy the shit out of my friends, girlfriends, things like that. But yeah. I just don't think I was born for it. I don't want to brutalize people's eardrums.
Well, Jeff, we'll get you here. You can come.
I knew you were going to say. I said, if I bring this up, he's going to get me on that damn stage, because we're talking about doing scary things. But I love that, man.
There is a big one from last summer, but it wasn't scary, but it was the biggest challenge I've ever done. So I don't know. Do I segue into my hike a little bit now with that question?
Let's talk about it. First
this
off,
is going to.
What was it? So we can get some context. What was it, and why did you do it?
The hike was the Bruce Trail. So there's many layers of the why and the how, and I'll go into some of that. But the Bruce Trail is a world-class trail here in Ontario, here in kind of somewhat eastern, central, southern Ontario that not enough people know about. It is unbelievable. At its core, it's 900 kilometers from Niagara Falls to Tobermory. That is the Bruce Trail. There's an additional 400 or 500 of side trails that run off, but it is primarily along the Niagara Escarpment as the escarpment rises and falls. And it's a hiking trail, and it's the most beautiful place you've ever seen. It's all of that. It's incredible. So that was the task. Hike the Bruce Trail. Physically was probably on a 1 to 10. It was a 5 or a 6. The mental part of the hike was
8 or a 9.
An 11 or a 12, honestly. And so when I committed to do this, and it took me 2 years, there's a long story here, but I'm in Rotary here in town in Barrie. There's 3 Rotary clubs in Barrie. I'm in the Rotary Club of Barrie. And I would get in trouble if I don't say the best Rotary Club here in town.
And it's called the Rotary Club of Barrie?
Yeah, there's 3 clubs in Barrie. So there's Rotary Club of Barrie, the Rotary Club Barrie Huronia, and Rotary Club Barrie Kempenfelt.
Yeah.
Ultimately, 3 clubs of the same organization. We do different things, but they're all the same thing. The foundation of all of them is giving money back to the community. So we should talk about Rotary a little bit and the incredible incredibleness, I love to make up words. I'm not sure if that's a word or not, but
Me
the
too.
incredibleness of Rotary and what it does and how much it gives. And Rotary is a worldwide organization, but here in town, the three clubs, there's probably 250 Rotarians in our city that are current Rotarians, and all they do is give, not just money, time, effort. We run projects. There's all kinds of Rotary projects around town that we do, but all the money, every single penny that Rotary earns goes back to its local community. There is an international component of Rotary, but not one penny of the money we raise do we keep. So Rotary is a very, very big part of my life, and it's tied into my hike. So I was at a Rotary event, and it brought our district together, and there was a guy talking about an island that he wanted to swim around, and literally, and I'm going to swear here, folks, he said, fuck it, why not? And literally as he said that, I don't mean this way, I kind of tuned him out because it got into my head, and I'm like, if this guy can say F it, I'm just going to go do it, then so can I. I don't know what it is I want to do, but I knew there was something I wanted to do. And at the time I was still, and still into this moment, processing my father who passed away in May of 2019. So there was that loss, that grief, and there was a void in my life with stuff, right? And you're a little lost, and you know, you don't, grief is something we can talk about. You didn't realize what you're missing until you miss. You don't know what is gone till it's gone. Anyways, I got thinking I want to do something. So I said, I'm going to hike the Bruce Trail. I've hiked on the trail before and love it, and it's beautiful. I'm like, that's pretty wicked. I'm going to do that. So I kind of thought about it and said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then in January of 23, at a Rotary event at my house, and I said to some people, this is what I'm going to do. And as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, what are you doing? You can't tell them because now it's real. And I wasn't ready for it. So it didn't happen. And I'm glad it didn't, because it would have failed. I was not ready. So I shut my mouth as quick as possible. I didn't bring that up again. And then I took some time and just let it sit. And it stewed and stewed and stewed in me. And I'm like, this is you talking to yourself. You're a loser. Why would you say that? Why would you do that? Now you're going to back away from it. What the fuck's wrong with you? Like, make a commitment, do something. Like, anyways, I started to get some motivation to do this. And I there's some things I talked about. 2019 impacted me, the loss of my father. 2017, my wife, Sherry, and I separated. And obviously that had a substantial impact. And therapy, going to therapy to talk, is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And it opened up so much shit that I didn't realize. And Wanda, who I go talk to, I was there last week. The relationship we have is just incredible. And where we go, what we talk about is, I advocate to anybody, everybody I talk about. I have no problem putting it out there. Do I go to therapy? Absolutely. Is it the greatest thing? Absolutely. It's just incredible. Sitting with Wanda, trying to get into my head to do this. And again, one day, and this is our relationship. I probably shouldn't say this because she'll get in trouble. But she said to me one day, why the blank aren't you doing this? What the blank is stopping you? Do it. And it was just like a sledgehammer to the head. Like, you're right. I was afraid of what's going to happen to my business. The answer, as it turned out, was absolutely nothing bad. So in October of 23, I'm doing this. So I took the next bit of time. I started training, but I'm like, this isn't physical, this is mental. And I'm going to use this as a tool, I suppose, through my very limited use and knowledge of social media and Facebook. I'm going to put out there, I'm going to make it accountable. So in January 1st of 24, I stood in my, or I guess January 3rd, stood in my office and recorded a live message and told people what I was going to do, that I'm going to hike the Bruce Trail, that I want to raise $50,000, and that I was searching for something and I didn't know what it was, and that I would find it. And then I posted the message, and where I was expecting to be, holy shit, what have you done? All it was a surge of energy of, all right, dude, let's roll. And every day I would get up and I'd post and I'd go for a hike. Luckily, last winter wasn't this insane winter that we've had, but I would post on my I'd have my phone hiking out in the forest where I live at 5 a.m. in the dark and the howling wind, saying, people, I do not want to be out here, but I've made a commitment to do this. And if I can get my ass out here, you can do this. Whether you want to get in shape, quit smoking, start a bit, whatever it is, if broken down old me can get up and do this, you guys can do it. So I'm going to put it out here, and I'm putting it out there for one reason, to maybe help you, but I'm ultimately putting it out there because you guys are going to help me. If I say I'm going to do this and I don't do it, I'm going to look pathetic, and that's not me. I don't want to do that. So the fact that I've put it out there and you guys are liking it and clicking it tells me people are paying attention. So you got to keep your word, man. You know what? If there's anything that I care that people think about me, it's that I'm honest and that my word is my word, right? You don't like me because I'm an asshole. That's fine. But you know, Jody's an asshole, but he kept his word. That's fine. I'm okay if you say that. So posting that to me meant I'm going to do it. I've got to do it. I don't care how, I'm going to do it. So I would every day hike, I'd post, and then I would post when I'm like, you know what? I woke up this morning. I felt like shit. I didn't want to go. It was cold and wet and rainy, and I didn't go. And now I feel awful. And I'm going now. I summarized my good. I summarized my bad. I went into my gym. I talked about therapy. And I talked all along, this is a mental battle. And I said, I need you guys. And as it's not about an audience, but in this case, I was being fueled by the likes and the comments and the phone calls. And I said to people from January 1st on through my hike, you think you clicked or, you know, you put the little thumbs up on Facebook or whatever. You have no idea. I read every one of those and I go, wow, there's somebody, there's Tony McIntyre, my best friend in high school in public school. When I moved away from Wasaga Beach in 1980, I've seen Tony a handful of times, and there's Tony connecting with me. Haven't seen him in 20 years maybe, and he's still paying attention, and that means something, right? So it just filled me with energy and whatever. So went through my process, had highs and lows, never had doubts, had lots of fears, lots of what are you doing, man? Had some injuries, had some substantial knee injuries, had a couple of fantastic friends of mine, Rotarians, that healed me, that got me through, that kind of bought into my team and said, you're doing this, man. This is not happening. And then got out there and got on the trail. April 20th, the hike started in Niagara Falls. And Paul and my girlfriend, we were down in Niagara Falls the night before camping, and it still seems surreal. Anyways, I got to Queenston Park where you start and recorded a video and went off hiking. And I've hiked that section before, and it was a whole different feel. But there literally was hundreds of people pushing me through. So every day was the plan up front was I had 2 tears in my meniscus, which I still have right now. So the plan was, let's see how I go for the first couple of days and then we'll adjust. And of course, being stubborn, again, day 1 was supposed to be 15 kilometers. And I said, screw this, I'm doing 25. So we did 25 and felt great the next day. And it just carried on. So every day was basically 25 to 30 kilometers. And I would get up in the morning, drive my truck and little trailer to my finish. I'd make arrangements for somebody to pick me up and drive me back to the start. And then I'd hike to my trailer. And so that leapfrog went on for 35 days, all the way up to Tobermory. And again, we talk about people. When you hike on the Bruce Trail, the different clubs, there's 9 clubs of the Bruce Trail that each manage a section, but they all have an organization called Trail Angels. And what a Trail Angel is, you go on their website and say, hey, I'm looking to hike on Saturday from point A to point B. Is anybody willing to drive me from drop me off at a spot? Because the trail runs in 2 directions, this way and that way. It's not a circular, right? So you can't park, hike, and come back. So that's why you need that. You're always moving in one direction. So Trail Angels, every day, somebody went out of their way to pick me up at 7:30 in the morning, drive me to where I needed to go, 10-15 minute car ride, and carry on with their day and let me go. And a lot of friends came. I had people drive from Barrie 2 hours. So they left Barrie at 5:30 in the morning to pick me up in the middle of who knows where and get me to my spot and give me a hug and move on. That was mind blowing, right? So you're using the Facebook page or the different Facebook groups. So I had 8 o'clock on day 4, 8 o'clock at night. I'm sitting in Kinsman Park in down Niagara Way. I can't think of where I was, the little city. It doesn't matter. And I've got no one to drive me to. And I'm like, well, so if it doesn't work, I'll hike from here and figure out how to get back here. I don't want to. Anyways, a lady messaged me and said, yeah, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. She showed up, picked me up. I had a doctor. Ironically, his wife's name, that's how we connected, was Jody. I connected with her on Facebook, and her husband is a doctor at, I think it was Mississauga General Hospital. He came and picked me up, and he was just blown away by what I was doing. But the fact that I said, I'm trying to raise $50,000. I was looking to raise $50,000 to give, and of the 50, 90% divided in two, to 45% to my Rotary Club, 45% to hospice here in town, which is where my dad spent the last 10 days of his life, and then the final 10% to the Bruce Trail Conservancy itself. He couldn't get over the fact that people were doing this, that my fundraising campaign was growing. So here's a doctor, came out, picked me up in his Mercedes, drove me back to, I think that day started at Shadoki Golf Course in Hamilton, and away we went. There's people constantly that I was connecting with, picked me up, dropped me off. I stayed in people's houses that I'd never met until the day I knocked on their door to say I'm here. They opened up their house. I had dinner with them. I met their grandkids.
It's like a pilgrimage.
It's unbelievable. And, I met other people on the trail that were doing, when you hike the Bruce Trail, it's not designed for camping. There are very few campsites out there. They don't want you to camp because a lot of the Bruce Trail is land where they've been given permission to hike. I met a few people that were doing road camping along the way, but it's a community, and there is a 0% chance this finishes without that. So
can I ask you a couple of things, Jody, for the sake of time? I think this is phenomenal. I mean, you've planted a powerful seed in my head, and I imagine to many people who are listening, because I've watched some documentaries. We've had some people come on here that talk about pilgrimage up in Spain and Portugal and places like that. I wasn't aware of the Bruce Trail. And yeah, you do 20, 30 kilometers a day for weeks and weeks and weeks. And a lot of these people are like, you find yourself there. So I'm wondering, what was the outcome for you personally?
Wow.
What do you think you got from that?
Here's Jody's emotion trying not to come out.
Let him out, man.
Nah, I do not. I've stood in front of my Rotary Club for years and cried at everything. So if anybody that's watching this, they'll be laughing at me right now. But that is what happened. The emotions were insane. What happened on the trail? And there's so many stories of unexplained things happened every day. And it got to the point where you have something incredible happen and you're blown away. And that in the beginning happened, but every day something happened and you're just like, of course it did. I very early on adopted this, the trail will provide, and the trail provided constantly. And I literally mean, I would be like, I'm tired. My routine every day was at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'd have a big grapefruit. I'd sit down somewhere and peel the grapefruit. Try to find a bench somewhere to sit, a rock. There's not a lot of benches in that 900 kilometers. You're in and out of provincial parks and stuff. There's not a lot of benches. But so often I'd say, you know what? I'd love to find somewhere to sit near a stream or a brook. Then I'd come around a corner and the sun would be beaming down. There'd be a little bench or a log falling over. And you could see the little wearing of people's butt sitting in there. And it just constantly happened. The trail just constantly provided. The day of the final finish was 30 kilometers, and the first 10, that was the hardest section. The first 10, I won't tell that story, but that day was magical. That was crazy. And that day was the 5-year anniversary of my dad's passing. So that's how I planned it, so that I'd really draw my emotions that day, right? I'm sitting on a shoreline 30 kilometers out of Tobermory on Georgian Bay, and one of the most, it's indescribable, the water up in the Tobermory area in the peninsula. And these white round, millions and millions of white rocks that have just been shaped over the years, whether it's through glacial action, but just the water, just, I can hear it in my head right now. Anyways, there was a point on my hike that day with about 10 kilometers left, and I was climbing up 2 rocks, and there was a little gap, and my foot slipped, and in slow motion, my leg should have went into these 2 rocks, and my body was falling over. I should have broke my leg in half at 10 kilometers. And in the 1 or 2 seconds to fall, I landed, and I was waiting for that rush of pain, and it didn't happen. And I just was like, of course it didn't happen. Nothing bad is going to happen to me this entire time. And again, I said to myself, don't do anything stupid, you idiot. You're right at your finish. Don't be stubborn. Just calmly get through your day. So much, it impacted me so much. I've struggled, ironically, since my hike. You are on such a high, and as I said, I talked to the trees, or with the trees and the rocks and the water, and you embrace nature, and you see what Mother Nature has done. And you also see, in a lot of cases, the negative impact that we unfortunately have had on it. And that was a part of it as well. But I've struggled with it since then, and it's taken me a long time to kind of get back to a point of, there was almost a negative, and I don't mean it that way, but it changed me, and I haven't completely replaced that high. And all I want to do is go back and hike. I'm looking at other hikes, other things to do. Reality sets in. Okay, now I need to go back and work. And by the way, work flourished without me. It was incredible what my team did at work. But it was and I've talked to other people, a gentleman in my Rotary Club and his family have climbed Mount Everest. And I said that to him, and he said the same. He's climbed every significant mountain in the world on every continent. But he talked about that void, that miss. So it changed me in so many good ways as a person, and just seeing the message I put out, the love and the comments people gave me, and knowing that I had a part of that, I still think there's a purpose for me to do stuff somehow inspired by that hike and other things that have happened. I think I have an ability to bring people together, and to I don't mean to help, but to help people get together and help themselves. So I don't have an exact answer. It changed me in so many good ways. It's left me wanting more, but I love it, man. I struggle to find words to describe how powerful and incredible it was.
I've recognized that many times. Just because we have language doesn't mean the language is good enough to describe what we're feeling. And that's why I was interested in asking you, because just because I can't describe something doesn't mean somebody else can't. Or maybe through asking this question, can we both learn how to describe something undescribable a little better? It sounds like awe to me, how I describe awe, the God, universe, nature, all that kind of stuff. I've had a number of experiences myself. I remember a silent meditation that lasted 4 days. It may not seem like a long time.
Wow.
But when you're in a group of people and there's no speaking and no technology and no nothing, it's all up here. So I love it, man. For the sake of time, first off, I really appreciate you sharing that story. I imagine a lot of people are going to be, I could never do that. I can't wait to do that.
Yes, you could. Yes, anybody can. Yes, you can. Jeff can. Anybody watching this, yes, you can.
Yeah, I love it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to say that. Yes, you can.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty special thing. The last two things. First off, people are interested. We've talked about many different things, but business-wise, IT services for the B2B, for the businesses out there locally here in Simcoe County. If they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that? Do they come to the place? What's the address, phone number, email?
Whatever works. We're on 81 Patterson Road, our website, kempenfeld.ca, our phone number. Talk. You brought up a point earlier, big businesses, small businesses, IT protection. And I'm not a sales pitch here. This is reality though. It's not a cost. It's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
I've said to customers, if you don't care if your network gets hacked and you're down, don't waste any money on this. Again, don't waste any money on the product. I'm telling you, it doesn't come with a guarantee. But there are scenarios where people don't really care. And that's maybe not the right. It isn't. If their world gets whatever, doesn't matter, they'll shut it down and start up a new one. That's fine. That does encounter. But the world we live in now, it's all electronic. It's not a hardware world. It's a software world. Everything's hosted, right? Your 365 licenses, everything's in the cloud. But just reach out to us or anybody. There's lots of good companies out there. Talk to people that do this. Learn what you don't know and figure out, okay, where do we have some risks? There honestly isn't a client that we've talked to where there aren't some risks. And a lot of people have had their things done really well. There's always, we use the submarine with 7 windows and one of them has a screen window on it. If you shut 6 of them, great. But the 7th one that has a screen window, water's coming in, right? So again, there's the IT analogy nonsense, but just talk to people.
No, but it makes sense. We talk about marketing the same way. Many small businesses that haven't successfully scaled or aren't where they want, look at it as a cost, as many people may look at is insurance. But it's like, if you're not spreading your message, your competitor is spreading the same thing. They're getting found and you're not. There's certain things out there that once you get it, you understand they are a significant investment. We have all kinds of protection in-house here. A lot of things we do are online. So we are pretty protected. We pay a service for that and we invest a ton in marketing. That's how we've gotten where we are. But last thing for you, Jody, you're speaking directly to your audience right now, the clients that you help specifically, your ideal client. And I think you touched on it a few points before. They seem quite valid to me, important for them to know. But what's the main thing you want them to know about how you help them?
It's very important for people to know we are as invested, that passion to look after your network and what it means to your business. So that a photocopier is not the most exciting product in the world, but the photocopier, what it provides your business to print your documents, that's how your invoices, what that brings to your business is something I'm extremely passionate about, looking after that, ensuring that's there. And IT's no different. So again, knowing how hard my team works, how talented they are, but ask questions, I guess, is what's the message I want is
what's the main thing you want them to know? What do they get from working with you? Ultimately,
honesty, integrity, and really damn good people.
Awesome. I love it, man. Jody, it's been a chat, man. This has been really good. This is one of the few times where I've listened as much as I have because I just wanted to let you keep going, especially about your hike. That's really cool stuff. I think to tap into what I think most people would describe as a spiritual experience, I haven't heard ever that it hurt anybody. And I've certainly heard countless times that it changed their lives completely. And it certainly has for me, battling through my own demons, working a way to get out of there. And eventually, as we talked about before, becoming an addiction counselor, that whole thing was like a 10-year spiritual process, if you will. It wasn't the numbers. It wasn't the science that often got me there, which is where my head mainly is. I want proof. I like science because it's my brain understands it. Spirituality, it's hard to understand. It's about surrendering and faith and all that stuff, things that we can't quite comprehend. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. I really hope to do it again sometime soon. And I have many things to talk to you about afterwards about that stage over there. I think we could have an interesting collaboration with it. But until then,
I can just say thank you for this, Jeff. I appreciate this interview. I appreciate getting to know you. I feel like I know you really well right now. And for anybody watching this, I'm going to let you know, I got this email and at first looked at it and I'm like, this is nothing. So there's the IT in me, be protective. But I got a second email. reach out and do this, guys. This is fantastic. What a great experience for me to have to go back. And as I said, you forget what matters and whatever. So Jeff, you asked questions that pushed a lot of buttons in a great way today. And you remember the awesomeness it is in your life, right? Whether it's personal, work, whatever. So if you get an email from these guys, pay attention to it, reach out to them, because this has been an amazing experience. And Jeff, I thank you and your team for this. I loved every split second of it.
It means a great deal to me, man. Really appreciate it. Until next time, Jody, you have a great afternoon, man.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpwithjeffandsean.com. That's gnpwithjeffandsean.com. Or call 705-413-3775.